Today, we will work on another top-down analysis. I know this kind of videos requested a lot. Today, I'll cover two trades that I took recently. I'll start with the 4 hours chart. Then I'll use 1 hour, 15 minutes and 5 minutes charts. In the final part, I'll show you two entry strategies with the 1 minute charts. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course. We only learn price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. If you love scalping and day trading or even swing trading and looking for special trading strategies, check out my free trading course. You can find the links on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. Let's start with 4 hour charts again. For Bitcoin, no need to check all the higher time frames because it is extremely bearish. As you can see here, the general order flow is bearish. In my opinion, every single upwards expansion and bullish movements are designed by big funds to get out from the Bitcoin. So I'm aligning with the big money and looking for shorts more than longs. Look, you should always be logical when it comes to trading. Never use your emotions. Your emotions will destroy your account. Now, you can see this obvious as R Phillip zone. After the high quality break, the price tested the Phillip area and dropped again. This last part is extremely important. The last 2 months were a disaster for cryptocurrencies. FTX scandal and bankruptcies, Binance reliability issues, loss of the trading volume, questioning the fundamentals of all unregulated exchanges. Besides, everybody starts to blame crypto for anything. Did you lose your car keys? Then go and blame crypto. There's no egg in the fridge, it's all Bitcoin's fault. Cryptocurrencies are the punch bags of the world at the moment. Let's move on to this part and check out the 1 hour charts now. In this 1 hour chart, you can see that we are in a bullish flow until the SR Phillip area. And all the social media pumpers were going crazy, like Bitcoin will be $50,000 next week. It feels like all these influencers are paid by big funds. Just right here, you can see another smaller version of the support resistance flip. Price strongly breaks downwards. This changes the flow of the trend. Okay, let's zoom in even more on this part. As you can see, I use 4 hour and 1 hour charts mostly to see the main flow and try to decide if it is more beneficial to look for long or short trades. Now, what is happening in this 15 minutes chart? What I do is always try to evaluate what is the main trend and flow. In lower time frames, trying to check where can the price move and if there is any hunted liquidity or any forming liquidity waiting for me. Where are the major imbalances? As you can clearly see, this equal high and recent liquidity is hunted at this point. These give me more reasons to look for more bearish setups to trade. Furthermore, if you look below, there is a forming liquidity, basically equal lows. And right below, there is the giant imbalance waiting for me. I use all of them to create a trade bias for myself. Now, let's check this part in 5 minutes. You can clearly see that the price is ranging here. I love ranges. They give me great opportunities to take multiple trades on the same day. Now we are in the 5-minute time frame. As you can see, we started with 4 hours, then 1 hour, then 15 minutes. Now checking the 5 minutes to create range to play with. After that, we will look at the 1 minute for trade entries. One of the biggest mistakes that I see on YouTube is most YouTubers just open 1 minute charts and try to scalp them without any idea what is happening in higher time frames. Most of them do not have logic or reasoning. I even saw a guy who kept taking every imbalance as an entry. If you want to destroy your account in one day, go and do that, please. Now this range was quite obvious if you look at the beginning part of the range. I identified this range back then. I was only waiting for suitable trading opportunities. Right here, you can see that equal highs are hunted with a swing failure pattern. And right below it, the same thing, another equal high and another swing failure pattern. I'm getting so many confirmations to short this chart. Now, even though we have not learned the FDR concept yet, it is an extremely simple concept. I don't even think it needs a separate video. It is the single opposite color candlestick in the sharp pumps or dumps. You can see that all red candlesticks, except this green candlestick. What is the idea then? In this case, this is a bull flag pattern. Many traders enter with this green candlestick here, thinking it is a bull flag, and now all of them are back holders. Once the price comes back here, they will want to exit at break even. Quite a simple idea. Okay, let's move on. Let's open this part in a 1 minute chart and check out how I entered this trade. Can you see how I entered here? If you completed my free trading course, you should be seeing how I entered. We already have the FDR supply area with a double swing failure pattern. We are in the extreme bearish conditions, plus we are in the range high area after some deviation. We have everything we need to short the asset. First, notice the quality of the break right here. Very strong. These two breaks fully change the course of flow here. It creates imbalanced areas at the top, right at the range high zone. You can also see the inducement right here, almost like an equal highs. This is the trade that I took. Again, see how large is my stop loss. My actual stop loss should be the way top at the first swing failure pattern. But it will be a meaningless stop loss in this case. As I always say, each chart is unique and your entry, stop loss and target will always be dynamic, changing from chart to chart. There is no rule book for this. I noticed a possible 3-tap pattern here with a hidden supply. So I decided that this was my best possible stop loss area because the price could easily pull back from there. It also matches the order block of the break. So give or take a fine location for a stop loss. My target was actually simple. It was the range low and open liquidity is below. I think many people took this trade with higher time frames. But now you can see much better the reasoning behind it. Okay, let's check the second trade. I took this trade in this area around range high again. What did I do? I used my super secret formula. No, not really, joking with you. I did exactly the same thing. Again, what do you see here? And where would you take the trade? This is a quiz for you. Pause the video and think about it for a moment. Now let's see. You can see liquidity forming around the range high. It is all hunted. It is also a swing failure pattern. Later on, you can see the break happening right here. The major break that changes the 1 minute trend. If you use your path tool, you'll see a shape like this, a very classic smart money concept and price action pattern. Price leaves a giant imbalance behind for us to look for entries. At the same time, notice how this small internal liquidity is being hunted. So, what do we have here? Imbalance touched and liquidity hunted. Exactly what we need for the price to move in the opposite direction. This is actually a mitigation block supply area, adding another confirmation to our trade. I watched all these movements closely and waited for the reaction, then placed this entry manually. Now the stop loss, where shall I put it? It is simple, as high as possible with reasoning. Can you see this order block? There is a good chance here the price can move up and claim this order block. Even hunt the swing high point before the big fall. I need to consider these. As a target, I mostly aimed for the forming liquidity below and the range low. Guys, if you repeat this 100 times, you will do all these by yourself. It is all about practice. Okay folks, another adventure ends here. I think you can do the top-down analysis by yourself now. All these trading methods are usable for scalping, day trading, or even swing trading. You can use it with Forex, crypto, or stocks. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.